Too little, too late, wrong target. Why the Express's belated editorial proves exactly what I said about fourth estate failure, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. Shifting blame to PNM women instead of condemning Rowley demonstrates continued abdication of responsibility. 4 days. It took the Trinidad Express 4 full days after former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley called Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar a jam-met to finally publish an editorial. And even then, they couldn't do what a serious newspaper should have done immediately: condemn Rowley's misogynistic language directly and unequivocally. Instead, they published Deafening Silence from PNM Women Today, March 21st, 2026, shifting focus away from the man who used sexually degrading language and onto PNM women for not condemning him. This is deflection masquerading as accountability, proving every point I made in my editorial, The Fourth Estate's Failure. The Express's belated, misdirected editorial raises critical questions. Why did it take my editorial calling out their failure to spur them into action? And why, even then, did they attack PNM women rather than the man who committed the offense? Now we wait to see if the Trinidad Guardian, equally silent for 4 days, will also suddenly discover editorial courage. If they do, it will prove these newspapers are followers, not leaders, driven by fear of appearing partisan rather than commitment to defending democratic standards. Here are 10 reasons why the Express's editorial proves my point. 1. It took my editorial to shame them into action. The timing is damning. Rowley made his jam-met comment on Tuesday, March 17, 2026, during a press conference at his Glencoe home. My editorial calling out both newspapers for their failure appeared shortly thereafter. The Express's editorial appeared today, Saturday, March 21st, 4 days after Rowley's statement, but suspiciously soon after being publicly shamed. The Express sat silent while government ministers condemned Rowley, while Nature issued statements, while civil society expressed outrage. Only after being publicly called out did they publish something. This reveals their editorial judgment is driven by public pressure and embarrassment, not principle. A newspaper requiring public shaming before defending basic standards has already failed its Fourth Estate responsibilities. 2. They still couldn't condemn Rowley directly. After 4 days and public criticism, they finally published an editorial attacking PNM women rather than the man who committed the offense. The headline, Deafening Silence from PNM Women. Not Rowley's misogyny unacceptable. This is cowardice dressed as courage. They can claim they addressed it while avoiding direct editorial confrontation with Rowley or PNM leadership. This proves exactly what I argued. The Express is unwilling to editorially condemn PNM leadership even when conduct flagrantly violates democratic norms. 3. They blame women for a man's misogyny. The Express took an incident of male misogyny and used it to criticize women for not condemning it. Instead of holding the perpetrator accountable, they hold women accountable for not doing the condemning the Express themselves should have done immediately. This shifts blame from perpetrator to bystanders. By this logic, we don't need to condemn Rowley's misogyny. PNM women should. And since they haven't, we'll condemn them instead. This is abdication of responsibility, disguised as holding others accountable. 4. They created a double standard for editorial responsibility. The Express condemns P&M women for not speaking out, while ignoring their own 4-day silence. They demand Beckles show courage confronting a former PM while demonstrating none themselves. They expect P&M MPs to risk party consequences, while the Express won't risk appearing partisan. If it's P&M women's responsibility to condemn Rowley, why isn't it the Express's? If silence from P&M women is deafening, what was the Express's 4-day editorial silence? 5. They provided cover for future evasion. By focusing on P&M women rather than Rowley, the Express created a template for future evasion. Next time a P&M leader engages in unacceptable conduct, they can avoid direct condemnation by criticizing whoever didn't condemn it strongly enough. Brilliant, strategic cowardice. Appear to address an issue while avoiding core confrontation. Maintain appearance of editorial standards while never applying them to those most deserving condemnation. 6. They ignore their own complicity. The Express condemns P&M women for silence without acknowledging their own. They write about 10 days after the International Women's Day March, but conveniently ignore that it's been 4 days since Rowley's statement, 4 days of their own editorial silence. They condemn others for the very failure they committed. They critique P&M women for not showing courage while demonstrating none themselves. This is not journalism, this is projection. 7. They validated my critique while pretending it doesn't exist. My editorial argued the Express failed to state responsibilities by remaining editorially silent. Their response, a belated editorial still avoiding direct Rowley condemnation, validates every point I made. But they do this without acknowledging the critique, explaining the 4-day delay, or addressing accusations their silence suggests P&M allegiance. They avoid accountability while pretending to provide it. 8. They set a precedent. Newspapers only act when shamed. The Express's behavior establishes that major newspapers will only fulfill state responsibilities when publicly called out for failing to do so. Standards are applied reactively based on public pressure, not proactively based on principle. Next time a political leader crosses fundamental lines, the Express will remain silent unless publicly shamed. And even then, they'll find ways to avoid directly confronting the offender. This is not how independent media functions. This is how captured media maintains the appearance of independence. 9. They're waiting for the Guardian. Proven needle leads. Now we wait to see if the Guardian will also suddenly discover editorial courage. If they do, it proves both newspapers are followers, not leaders. The Guardian has been equally silent for 4 days, but now the Express has provided cover. Real editorial leadership means standing alone when principles demand it. Both newspapers lack that courage. This is herd behavior, not journalism. 10. They proved exactly what I said about P&M protection. 4 days of silence, followed by an editorial attacking P&M women instead of Rowley, confirms my argument that the Express effectively protects P&M figures. If truly independent and committed to democratic standards, they would have published Rowley's Misogyny Unacceptable on Wednesday, March 18th, directly condemning his language. Instead, 4 days silence, published only after being shamed, focused criticism on P&M women rather than the man who used degrading language. This is exactly the behavior of a newspaper appearing independent while avoiding direct P&M confrontation. In conclusion, the Express proved my point. The Trinidad Express's belated, misdirected editorial published today proves every argument about Fourth Estate failure. It proves newspapers only act when shamed, will avoid direct P&M confrontation, will shift blame rather than accept responsibility, and lack editorial courage when it's most needed. The Express can claim they addressed Rowley's jam-met attack, but they actually attacked P&M women for not doing what the Express should have done immediately: editorially condemn sexually degrading language. This is not journalism, this is evasion, this is deflection. This is exactly the behavior my original editorial criticized, with the added insult of pretending they've addressed the issue while avoiding core confrontation. Now we wait to see if The Guardian follows suit, publishing their own belated editorial now that the Express has provided cover. If so, it will complete the picture. Both newspapers lacking courage to lead, both avoiding direct P&M confrontation, both acting only when public pressure makes inaction indefensible. The Fourth Estate's failure continues. The Express's belated editorial doesn't disprove that failure, it exemplifies it. Our major newspapers will not defend democratic norms proactively, will not show courage when needed, will not directly confront P&M leadership no matter how egregious the conduct. They act only when shamed. They focus blame elsewhere. They maintain the appearance of independence while demonstrating exactly the opposite. The Express's editorial proves I was right. Their silence was deafening, and their belated, misdirected response only makes the failure more obvious.